Hi everyone! Today I'll show you how I made this miniature leather handbag, which is actually made of polymer clay, not real leather, in 1:12 scale. It's a reproduction of my own very old, very battered leather handbag, so as always I start the project with the life-size object. I measure it from all sides and divide the numbers by 12. Then I draw a quick sketch with all the measurements. The material I'm using for this project is a type of polymer clay by brand Fimo called Leather Effect. If you're not familiar with this product, I'll briefly explain what it is and show you the most common way to use it. It's different from regular polymer clay for a couple of reasons. First, of course, it's because it has a leather-like finish, and second, because you can work with it after you have baked it rather than before. So as usual, you warm up the clay with your hands, then you flatten it with a rolling pin or a pasta machine like I do. And if you use a pasta machine, it's better to repeat the process a few times, starting out with a thicker setting and then gradually getting to the thinnest setting. At this point, you can bake it according to the packaging instructions, and the result is this. The main feature of this product is that it is flexible and can be cut with common scissors, but also punched with a paper punch, for example. So anyway, this is the suggested method to work with this clay, but I will not be doing that. Because I'm using it on such a small scale with minute details, I prefer to work with the unbaked clay. So back to the sketch I showed you in the beginning, I cut it out and use it as a template to get the basic shapes on the unbaked layer of clay. The same template works both for the back part, which has the flap, and the front part, which has no flap. I repeat the same process for the little front pocket, which is actually fake. And to keep all the various pieces together, I will use the so-called liquid clay, which is not real clay. It's a material that hardens in the oven, effectively working as a glue once the pieces are baked. Also, side note, I realized afterwards that the small flap of the front pocket will be completely hidden under the bigger flap of the bag, so it's actually kind of pointless, but I left it anyway for the sake of realism. Then, to imitate the hem that runs around the edges of the pocket, I cut out a super thin strip of clay and glue it around the fake pocket. For the central part of the bag, I cut out a larger strip of clay and then slightly fold its two ends with a dotting tool so that it looks like this. Then with the liquid clay, I glue this band all around the back part, applying a very light pressure on it with the dotting tool. So you should end up with something like this. And the same process goes for the front part. Again, to imitate the hem or the stitches, I add 2 super thin strips of clay, both around the front part and around the flap. And because I don't need this bag to open and close, I glue the flap to the front pocket, sealing it forever. So now that it's ready, it can go in the oven. While it's baking, we can make the straps. There are 2 straps and they're attached to the main body through this thing with a metal ring on both sides. So in total, I cut out 2 longer strips of clay and 2 shorter ones. Now the metal parts. I use a very thin copper wire, and with the help of a pair of tweezers, I shape it into a tiny ring. It's black and needs to be painted, and for that I use a golden marker. Then I attach it to one of the shorter strips in this way. Then I make another one and I link these 2 pieces to the longer strips. I don't use any liquid clay, a bit of pressure with a dotting tool is enough. The clip here is missing, but very simply with a needle I poked some holes along the end of one of the longer straps, and I also made the 2 bits that make up the buckle and assembled all of them in this way. The strap is done and so is the bag straight out of the oven. It's now hardened enough and can be handled without any risk of squishing it. So I can attach the straps on both sides with a bit of liquid clay. Are we done? No, not yet. There is still the clutch. I don't make any paper template for this bit, but just freehand draw the basic shape on a layer of clay, looking at the real thing for reference. Poke some holes with a needle. Add the buckle, which is done the same way as before, and lastly a tiny ring. So all done, time to bake it. Now, looking at the bag in natural light, I realized that the brown color was a bit too dull, whereas the leather of my handbag has a reddish hue. So the very last step, and I promise this is really the last one, I added a bit of dry pastel with a brush all over the surface. And now it's really done. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye!